Hello and welcome to episode 112 From Data to Decisions Synspectives SAR Satellites in Action. So, we have previously discussed on this podcast several aspects of Earth observation, but SAR is the topic that we really didn't took a deep dive into. And it remains one of the crucial aspect of the space industry as well to navigate in domains like maritime, especially to counter some of the threats as well as to help uh, quite a lot of, I would say, purposes which are beyond even military, even in the disaster management too. So, without any delay, I would like to welcome Stefan from Synspective. Hi, Stefan. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you very much for inviting me, and yeah, thank you to your listeners as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Stefan, for your time. It's a busy time for the industry. As you know, there are quite a lot of developments going on with not only the satellites, but I would say even with the space exploration and the current US election, as we have seen, things are shifting quite a lot, and we're expecting some rapid developments, happening in terms of both policies, even in terms of missions that are coming up. So I think this is an exciting time for the industry. And before we take I would say a deep dive into the topic of today's, that is SAR satellites, and of course the perspective of Synspective on it, on the global market. Can you briefly tell us about yourself? How did you started your journey in the industry, and how you ended up doing what you're doing? And also, along with that, can you also provide us a brief about what is Synspective and how did it started targeting such a niche market that is SAR satellite applications?
All right, sure thing. So yeah, my name is Stefan Kirario, and I am an executive officer and a general manager of the satellite system development department in Synspective. And I joined Synspective in 2020, and for me it was the first time I entered the space industry. And I became a general manager here in 2023. And since then I supervised the design and operation of our SAR satellites. But my background actually is in embedded system engineering. So when I joined Synspective, I was actually working on the satellite onboard software and onboard computer. Hmm? And yeah, prior to joining Synspective, I was a general manager in Transys Corporation, which was an IoT company based in Yokohama in Japan. Yeah, Yeah, so Synspective journey started out of a research project in Japan called Impact, which was led by Professor Shirasaka from Keio University. And this project aimed at developing a small SAR satellite, right? Because traditionally, SAR satellites were quite big and costly, and yeah, this research project basically proved that you can have a similar or even better SAR image performance using small satellites, right? And this, yeah, was proven when Synspective launched and operated Strix Alpha. Yeah, but the company was formed by Dr. Motoyuki Arai, yeah, with a vision to use SAR data to help our customers, but to also to better understand the world we live in. And yeah, at the moment, with the help of our partners, we have successfully launched 5 satellites. And yeah, we have established a satellite production factory, and now we're aiming to manufacture at least 12 satellites per year.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely will be going through that journey, Stefan, over the course of this episode. So, yeah, coming to the actual topic of the day, I'd say, as a SAR satellite operator in the new space era, what challenges do you face in designing, building, and I would say even launching SAR satellite phase, as well as developing solutions and recording good sales for your solutions or services? Because I believe space industry as a whole, I mean, like, I don't want to pick up sides on which sales is complex. Sales is a complex process always,
Mhm.
and especially SAR satellite operations, where that there are segments like maritime, where the policies need to be implemented. Like, we See, especially in South Asia, especially the Indian subcontinent and all, where a lot of illegal stuff keeps on happening on the maritime, but still, uh, SAR satellite applications are not fully deployed yet the way it should be. So, how challenging it is for you as a satellite operator to convince government agencies about your solutions, and along with that, of
Mm.
course, designing, building, and launching your own fleet, and complete basically or record a successful, I would say, revenues for your company.
All right, yeah, that's a multi-layer question there, but basically, I will speak mainly about the design and operating the satellite because these are closely connected to my responsibility. And yeah, for sales and developing such kind of service in its own, yeah, I hope you can invite some of my colleagues as well to talk about
Absolutely.
these areas more
Yes.
elegantly. But
Yes.
I think the recent events that happen globally, right? I think really, really stirred an interest in what information can do for governments, for countries, right? And this, I think, we'll see a lot more interest in the future. Okay, but yeah, what I can say is that in developing the strict satellites when we started and even now, yeah, we're facing many of the challenges that the new space industry is facing, right? And one of these challenges is dealing with something that we know as COTS, which is component of the shelf, right? So these are typically satellite components that are made with the off-the-shelf parts, so there's no radiation hardening, or they're not necessarily super robust for space applications. But this is one of the key parts for the new space industry. And yeah, I would say that these parts have the advantage of being much cheaper, right, and much easier to procure because let's say their robustness, or the processes that go into making them are not so complicated and not so expensive as opposed to traditional space components, right? And of
Yes.
course, for when we start making our partnerships with such suppliers, right? We understand that the industry is quite new in itself, so actually, many partners can be startups themselves, and maybe they need some support and help to reach um, a very good level of their product quality, right? So we are trying to support the industry as well in this way. But we understand that the great advantages of using quads is solving one of the challenges, which is lead time for procurement, right? Because um, the lead time is the time basically that takes from placing an order to getting the component delivered to your assembly line, right? And it's important because we want to be flexible in satellite development. Uh, as you mentioned, maybe the maritime domain awareness is an application, right? But there are many other applications. So customer demands can change quite rapidly in the future because we are in this kind of moment when the market itself is becoming more mature for such kind of products, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah, how do we deal with this kind of change in customer demands and needs? So we need to have a quite a flexible attitude in satellite development. And yeah, using components off the shelf is one way to solve some of these lead time problems because with traditional satellite parts, the lead times are very high. We're talking about even more than a year, but 10, 12 months or more, right? So this is very tough when you want to
Yes.
build a satellite in under 1 year, right? So yeah,
Yes.
suppliers are really helping us in solving this issue. And another
Absolutely.
challenge, is, I would say, the trade-off game, and the higher level of risk acceptance that usually new space company have to work with, right? Because we have to
Yes.
make the satellite faster and cheaper, we need to accept more risk. And actually, this is driving the old space engineers crazy, right? Because they're used to different kind of workflows. Mm. But yeah, you cannot have
Absolutely.
a small satellite in 1 year with a tenth of the cost or less, and not take some risk. So this is a very important point to understand. For many who would like to join the new space companies, I think this is important to understand, in my humble opinion. Yeah, at Synspective, actually, we developed a good design concept also to that allows us to minimize these risks, right, and mitigate the ones that cannot be avoided. So we have a very sound redundancy strategy, that takes into consideration this kind of function, quality, and cost. And yeah,
Yes.
another challenge
Interesting.
is scaling up. Um, as I said, we already launched 5 satellites, and we're trying to scale up because, yeah, with the low Earth orbit satellites, you need a constellation to be effective and to provide a good service to your customers. So, yeah, scaling up satellite production is a challenge because there's
Yeah.
not a lot of proven models out there, right, that we can follow. So, I think, yeah, every satellite operator and satellite production company is having these difficulties how to scale up. So yeah, we needed a way to be able to manufacture 6 to 12 satellites per year and be flexible enough to be able to respond, to different mission requirements. That's a difficult problem actually. Yeah, because when you do recurring manufacturing, you will have a very short time between launches. So you have a very short time to apply any reflection from actual operation in orbit, right? So once you launch it in orbit, you can see how it actually behaves in orbit. So if you have some reflection you
Yes.
want to put back into the satellite design or manufacturing, you don't have a lot of time there. So yeah, so we dealt with this problem, yeah, with a change actually in our mindset and design philosophy and reforming some of our processes. And yeah, we hope from 2026 onwards we will launch 12 satellites per year. Yeah, and actually, to this effect, this year we opened a factory in Kanagawa Prefecture, which is a bit south of Tokyo, in a city called Yamato. So we call this factory the Yamato Technology Center. Yeah.
Interesting. You mentioned about the procurement side. So I think maybe after the podcast, I'd be able to tell you in more detail because we haven't. We are launching the platform next week, but of course, some of the people in my network know about our platform. That is a
Mm,
B2B online marketplace for space and defense industry that we are launching, and it's exactly to solve this issue.
mm,
In manufacturing, in terms of lead time, in terms of basically making the job easy of engineers to find the right suppliers. A lot of times it happens, you find the suppliers, but the costs are quite high.
right.
Especially companies in Asia, Latin America, can't really afford to pay the kind of prices which are there in the American market or the European markets. But because not every company can have a wide area of network, that's where a platform like us comes into the play, and we try to connect with the right place where you can have a high quality component but at a much more affordable price as compared to the high value markets like United States. So yeah, I mean, like, after the podcast, definitely I'll come to that point, but I completely agree with you. I mean, this is an issue with the new space market, especially as we see that the demand of both the hardware and the software as well, it's rising. And uh, I mean, there is a quite a lot of demand, but the supply chain is somewhere crunched, not in terms of even providing the solutions, but in terms of connecting or having that trust with the other suppliers, in terms of lead time as well. Because I believe in space industry, commercial off the shelf works, but it's most of the time it is always customized solutions. Because
Mm,
even when someone wants a satellite platform, every mission design is different. Like, if we see with SpaceX also, every version of the satellite has something different. So they can't have a manufacturer where they can say, okay, this is a commercial off the shelf satellite platform and we need it for all our satellites. Because the mission keeps on evolving, the demand capacity keeps on evolving, and as per that you need platforms which are customized according to your specific batch of missions. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that point. And just to extend on the same lines, I would say a little bit ahead, going step ahead from the manufacturing side, can you share with us some real world examples, use cases where Synspective's SAR data solutions and services have created a huge impact or kind of made difference in the global market?
I see. Well, I will give you an example that we, how should I say? I will give you an example from Japan. I know you mentioned global market, but I think it's applicable. Okay, but
Yes.
basically, this year, right at the start of the year, so this is a case that stuck with us. So I will. I want to mention this. But on January 1st, there was actually a big earthquake in Japan. It was a magnitude 7.6 in a region called the Noto Peninsula. And when that happened, Synspective was actually one of the companies that provided satellite imagery with the affected areas. And one important aspect in that case was that due to the characteristics of our SAR instrument, we were able to capture the entire peninsula with just three observations, right? We were able to observe large areas for many times on numerous days and provide this data to the disaster relief effort. So I think it's a clear indication, that synspective SAR images are an important tool in disaster mitigation. Hmm.
Interesting. And I mean, that's a great example, live example that you provided on these things. Definitely, I think our listeners and the people who are watching this on YouTube as well will be able to kind of go out on the Google and try to search about this thing and how your company has basically made an impact over there. uh, I would say a little bit, going ahead on the challenges side, because that's what we spoke about just now. There was a challenge and you provided kind of a solution over there.
Mm.
So with the growing importance of earth observation in global challenges, how does your company work with especially governments or international organizations to address such critical issues, kind of similar the kind of issue that you mentioned at the moment?
Mm.
And even if there are any other critical issues where your company works with the government agencies or even the humanitarian organizations, so please feel free to extend on this.
Yeah, definitely. This is part of our future vision to be able to provide the data globally to such kind of organization. Basically, as I mentioned, we want to contribute in understanding the world, right? Because the Earth is a system in itself, right? So there's many moving parts there that we would like to contribute in understanding how uh, the Earth as a system is.
Yeah.
But you know. We also have many activities. We're engaged in many activities besides providing data and intelligent solutions. We also try to participate as much as possible in shaping policies and regulations in the space industry. You know, um, for example, last year my team participated in the World Radio Communication Conference in Dubai, where we try to represent SAR satellite operators' interests in future frequency allocation and policies, especially for X-band. So yeah.
Interesting. And because you spoke about bit regulations and related stuff as well. So regarding data piracy, or I would say data privacy, not
Mm,
piracy,
mm,
data privacy and security, how does Synspective ensure that the sensitive information captured by your satellites is protected? Because I believe managing the data, especially in this day and age where everything is on cloud, it's I mean, there is no specific hardware where the penetration agencies can access its cloud. People can access it from anywhere. So how do you basically ensure protection, or kind of, I would say, assure the agencies or your customers that your data is protected?
Yes, of course, that's a good question, and of course, the detailed answer usually cannot be offered. But
Yes,
what we can, yeah, we definitely take this very seriously, and we fully comply with the requirements set by laws and regulations, and Remote Sensing Act and Space Activity Act, and of course, there's, like you mentioned, there's 2 points here: communication with the satellite itself, right, which is
yes,
encrypted, and access to satellite tasking and operations, right, and is very very restricted even inside our company. And access to
yes,
the mission data again is very very restricted. And we have regular training and audit of this kind of security measures. So we are very very careful on what information is shared, even with partners, right? When we develop, for example, a relationship with the component suppliers, providing information about the satellite design is very very carefully checked, because we are dealing with dual use technology and things like this. And yeah, also you mentioned cloud systems and things like this, but there are points where you can specify the physical location of the servers have to be in a specific area, even though you are using a cloud infrastructure. So this is definitely part of our measures.
interesting. I believe we are reaching the final part of the episode, and I believe there have been several questions popped up, especially to the sales, and then again, the cloud related stuff. I'm happy to again host a few more episodes with your
Yes,
company, with more of your team members from other departments as well, because
yes,
I believe this, especially topics related to the SAR satellites, and especially identifying the industry gaps for SAR satellites, has been very complex, I would say. I mean, we identify the industry gaps, but it's always, when it comes to sectors like maritime, it's not only the companies, it's the government who also should be aware about this fact that they need to push the policies and try to integrate the SAR satellite operator solutions as well. Like they
yes,
have to look up to the SAR satellite operators and try to engage with them sustainably, which I would say is not happening to that level in the Indian subcontinent. I would say, even though it might be happening in countries like Europe and several European countries, and some of the East Asian countries as well. But yeah, there are several areas where those things are still lagging behind. So definitely happy to address this in separate episodes, because I believe this whole topics need a separate episode, on each of them. But yeah, coming to the
definitely.
final question. Yeah, so coming to the final question, how do you see Synspective's technology evolving in the future? Are there any new satellite launches or innovations on the horizon? Are there any kind of services also, or solutions that you're launching that the industry should be aware of?
Yeah, so we do have a well-defined vision and roadmap for the future. Yeah, where the SAR data is used in frequent decision making. But we identify that to achieve this, we need to develop many things in parallel. So, of course, in my own team, we are focused on improving the satellite platform and the SAR performance. And
Yes,
we are also working on enabling more advanced technologies on our satellites, such as onboard processing, tip and queue, such kind of technologies that will offer better service, especially fresher data and faster delivery. So for these communications, for example, space networks, inter-satellite
yes,
communication, this is something we very carefully monitor at the moment. And yeah, the market really demands faster delivery. So SAR data is quite large. So we are very interested in
absolutely, yeah.
industry developments regarding communications and things like this.
Interesting. So yeah, thank you very much, Stefan, for wonderful insights about Synspective, and thank you very much for also kicking off this topic of SAR satellites, because this is the first time Even though we have crossed 100 episodes, this is the first time we are actually discussing about SAR satellites. And me, as a person coming from an Earth observation background, I did my bachelor's in geology with
Mm.
specialization in satellite and remote sensing. For me, this is a benchmark episode, I would say, because we really need to discuss, about the solutions. Even though people are aware in the space industry, the outside world is not fully aware about the kind of competitive edge this kind of solutions can offer to several of the industries. So thank you very much, and I hope to see and your team as well next time on a few more episodes with us. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much as well, and yeah, let's continue discussing about SAR imagery.
Absolutely.